Welcome, everyone, to another episode of What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. And on today's show, we're going to revisit an old friend. It was, maybe 6 months ago that my team and I sat down and started thinking about who would be a good guest. I've always been fascinated with casinos, and you may remember back in the day, I think it was on Discovery Channel, there were often shows called Behind the Scenes at Casinos and What You Don't See at the Casino, some sexy title like that, trying to convince you and me to watch these shows and learn how the money moves around and how the value of the chips, all this kind of stuff. It was really interesting. And at the time, my business was bringing me to Las Vegas frequently, and I watched these shows and then would try to identify those same things in Las Vegas as I moved around the casino. So I've always been somewhat fascinated by the functionings of casinos and what they know about their customers and whether it's true that they pump oxygen into the casino to keep people awake and whether it's true that they black out all the walls so you lose track of time and there's no clock in there and all these kind of myths about the casino. You've heard me mention the name Kristen Ogden on this show before, and I asked Kristen, she's the one that helps me find and kind of talk to our guests. I asked Kristen, hey, let's try to get one of the casinos from Mississippi on the show. Kristen began her pursuit and spoke to a couple of general managers at the casinos who were very unfriendly, frankly, acting like Kristen had asked the wrong thing. They gave her a scary feeling, I guess is an interesting way to say it, until Kristen found LuAnn Pappas. LuAnn is the Chief Executive Officer at the Scarlett Pearl Casino and Resort in D'Iberville, Mississippi. And when Kristen found LuAnn, she knew she had found our point of contact. When I got LuAnn on the phone several months ago, and she and I talked about her casino and the way it operates, she was extraordinarily forthcoming. The same questions that Kristen had told other casino owners that I would be asking, and they rigorously said, we will not answer that question. We don't want anything to do with your radio show. LuAnn was immediately forthcoming and said, I'd be happy to discuss who our customer is and what we know about her and how we try to gather information on her and what we do to make her, and you hear the customer, her, what we do to make her feel comfortable in the casino. I'll be happy to address the myths of pumping oxygen and lights and windows and things like that and the lack of clocks in the casino. She was overwhelmingly forthcoming. Kristen and I and John Thompson, the producer of the show, fell in love with LuAnn and what she does for her guests at her casinos, as well as her story. She began in retail, and over years, she moved to nearly every position in the casino and then was suddenly approached by a private group, a family, to open this casino here in South Mississippi. And having spent time in South Mississippi with one of her previous casino employers, she jumped at the chance. And not only that, there was this very non-traditional model that this family was proposing on the way to run and develop and design a casino. It's a great story. And what I want to do is get LuAnn back on the phone and talk about the casino in the time of COVID. What have they done during the downtime to prepare for the reopening? What is the reopening going to look like? If I'm in a casino and I like to roll craps, which is what I typically do, I got to touch the dice, right? What are they doing? Are they having to wipe or defumigate the dice or whatever every time someone rolls? Is there a giant bag full of dice, brand new dice that they're pulling from to keep the dice fresh and keep the COVID from spreading? Are they doing spacing around the craps table, spacing around the blackjack tables, whatever it may be? I think a casino could be an incubator of the most detrimental, most dangerous parts of the COVID virus. And it will be interesting to talk to LuAnn, considering who she knows is her customer, the 50-year-old male. And what she has historically provided that customer is safety and security and comfort and friendliness, and how she's now having to do this post-COVID crisis. What does that look like? What is her transformation? We're also going to ask LuAnn a new question that we're going to begin, hopefully, asking the guests, if I can remember them. What were you going to keep? What are you going to leave behind? Keep or leave? Keep or leave? LuAnn, what of the new tactics that you've developed during COVID will you keep that you've found that you like? What of the things that you've had to do are you eager to leave behind? And I pose this very same question to you, the listener. We want to get you involved with the question. Talk to me about what you've learned during the COVID crisis that you're going to keep about your business. What have you had to do during the COVID crisis that you can't wait to leave behind? Keep or leave behind. And share your answers with me. The number to share this answer is 251-260-8100. Again, 251-260-8100. Or you can email me, cam@whatsworkingcam.com. That's cam@whatsworkingcam.com. What are you going to keep? What are you going to leave behind? I'm interested in your answers, the story behind it, and we might just get you on the phone to tell your story on the air. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. When we come back, we'll have LuAnn Pappas, CEO of the Scarlett Pearl Casino. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions.
Think about how people really see you. The kid at the drive-thru just sees a coffee drinker.
Please go forward.
Your local barista sees the person who loves a smiley face in their latte.
See you next time.
It's kind of the same way with insurance. Other insurance companies just see a customer, but a State Farm agent sees more. They see you as a neighbor. Your State Farm agent is here to get to know who you really are, so they can help life go right.
Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, in Mobile at 666-1616.
Even if we don't meet in person, Regions is still here for you. We make it easier for you to stay informed and in control with online and mobile banking. You can check balances, transfer money, pay bills, deposit checks with Regions Mobile Deposit, and even set up helpful alerts no matter where you are. We're here to make it easier to bank your way. Learn more at regions.com/tools. Regions Bank, member FDIC.
The best, most cost-efficient ways to talk to customers about who you are and what you do is through signs, simple, effective signs. Hi, I'm Cam Marston, host of What's Working. Signorama is the Mobile area's leader in helping you design and build signs advertising your business. What kinds? All kinds of signs, all kinds. Find Signorama on Facebook or at signorama-mobile.com. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. On the line with me, I have LuAnn Pappas. She's the Chief Executive Officer at the Scarlett Pearl Casino and Resort. And as I said in my opening comments, one of our favorite guests on the show thus far, due to her willingness to tell us how things work. She showed us her cards, essentially, using a casino metaphor, and fell in love with her because of it. LuAnn, thank you so much for your willingness to come back onto the show. Welcome back to What's Working.
Thank you, and good morning.
Good morning. I'm very curious of the scenario, the timeline of what happened when the COVID virus escaped, for lack of a better term, and what your reaction was. Tell me how this thing rolled out and its impact on the casino back in the day.
Well, it's interesting. You know, it really was, 60 some days ago, and it's amazing how time goes so fast that you think it was much longer. I remember when it happened, but I can also tell you that Scarlett Pearl was discussing internally that we were going to more than likely close, whether it was mandated or not, due to the pandemic. So again, the decision came on the heels of us making a decision that we were going to do it anyway. To a lot of people, it happened rather quickly, and no one, of course, expected ever it to be as long as it was.
Yeah, and it's been quite a while, and I think I see that you're now open. I want to talk to you about that opening process, but so give me, one of the questions that we've been asking post-COVID crisis is a sense of the payroll. What were you in, let's say, mid-February, and what were you at the bottom of the crisis, payroll-wise?
Well, it's an interesting question, and one, again, where I'm pretty candid about it. We paid folks as long as we could, and then we, studied it and realized that between the CARE Act and the unemployment, many of our associates would actually fare much better financially. So we opted to move from paying associates, I think it was about the middle of April, to then furloughing our associates and at the same time paying all of their benefits, to which we continue to do for some that are still on furlough and through the end of July. And if we have to, we'll expand that longer.
How many people are working the floor right now versus how many were in mid-February?
Well, in mid-February, we had a little under 900. and we have a little under 800 today.
Oh, wow.
For the most part, we have about, I don't know, it's less than 70 some people on furlough. But unfortunately, as a result of the pandemic, as a result of having to figure out how to do things differently, throughout that process, there were some opportunities that presented itself. And unfortunately, we did have to make some tough decisions that we had hoped we wouldn't have to make. But the world as we know it has changed. We don't know how long that's going to last. And unfortunately, sometimes it's very difficult to be in business and try to work through this without a playbook.
I know that casinos are 24 hours a day. And during the midst of the crisis, it feels like we're coming out of it. And I say there's still a crisis going on, and even the numbers in Mobile, the confirmed cases of COVID in Mobile, I saw in the headlines this morning, increased yesterday. But I still feel like the crux of the crisis is a bit behind us. Now, casinos are open 24 hours a day. You had to close yours. What's it like walking through a casino that's perfectly empty? I mean, are the lights off? Did you turn the slot machines off, which make so much noise and so much visual stimulus? What's it like?
Well, we turned off everything we could without jeopardizing anything in the building, including our overhead outdoor signage. And obviously, when you know that you're going to have no income, you want to try to conserve that which you can. And certainly utilities is a pretty hefty portion of our spend. It was very depressing. There were many times where I walked in the casino, and because it was dark and it was quiet, and we certainly had maybe 55 people working, but it was a very eerie feeling. And after being open almost 5 years, you couldn't help but get a lump in your throat. And some days you even stood there and cried because you said, when will it end and what will it look like? And more importantly, the impact it had on so many people.
Did you take the opportunity to spruce anything up? We talked to a guest last week who power washed. This was Pat O'Brien's bar in New Orleans. They've been power washing Pat O'Brien's, getting centuries of foot traffic and grime off the walls. Did you guys do anything similar? Did you use the opportunity to spruce the casino in any way?
Well, we did, because we're open, as you said, 24/7. There are some things you want to do, but it's just not possible because you have people in the building all of the time. However, we were under construction for a new high limit room when this happened. We were allowed by law to continue that construction. So it did make it easier because some of that construction was quite noisy, and you cringe when you have to do that and you're open because obviously customers come for entertainment and they don't want to be stressed out by the jackhammering, the drilling, the hammering. So we were able to continue, and we still are with that construction, but we never stopped throughout the whole closure.
The Scarlett Pearl Casino is owned privately by a family. How has working for them in this time been different maybe from your background with Caesars?
Well, it's very different. I mean, we were able to have a call once to 2 times a week with 800 plus associates, where Mr. Bob, our owner, was able to join on those calls. We would have them every Friday because we wanted to stay in touch and to continue to update people what we thought, what we were working on, and more importantly, to get their input. Because we knew there would be changes when we opened, and we knew the notice would come rather quickly, which would then prohibit us from having time to train on the new procedures for sanitizing and cleaning. But we all say we're blessed to work for a family and be able to make decisions quickly, not have to ask, for permission. And it's just, unfortunately for us, Mr. Bob and Miss Dolores live in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania's still under lockdown, so they've been unable to travel. And that said, we certainly don't want them to. Because there's no need for them to be here right now, but we communicate constantly. And like I said, the family gets on the phone on our Zoom meetings with all the associates as well.
That's good. Do you have any connection with your Caesars colleagues from back in the day? What are they saying?
Oh, many. And, we're all going through the same struggle. I have some very dear friends that will remain friends forever. And quite a few colleagues. We stay in touch. I mean, it is an industry not unlike others where we still communicate. We still all talk about the challenges we have and some remedies. The good news is from, as far north as Connecticut all the way down to the south and out to the west, we were able, a group of us that were close friends, to get together, and because of the different stages in which states could open, to be able to say, oh, here are our lessons learned. Oh, we did this. Don't do that. It didn't work. So it's a tremendous benefit to have that type of camaraderie and ability to communicate within the organization or the industry.
One of the questions, LuAnn, that I want to ask as we close down the interview in a little while is, what are you going to keep from the COVID crisis? What are the ideas that you're going to keep, the practices that you learned during the crisis that you're going to keep, and what are you going to throw away? What are you eager to be done with? So we'll get to that in a moment. And it sounds like you've had a similar conversation with peers and colleagues across the industry. So when we get to it, I'll be interested in your thoughts on that. So the casino was dark for a time. I know from our previous conversation that you guys are instrumental in support of your community of there in D'Iberville, and the community really loves the casino and what you do. It's a very great, the way you described it is a great, wonderful relationship between who you are and your community. I'm curious how the community has rallied around you during this time.
Well, it's an interesting question, and one I'm proud to say. We talked about it in the structure that we used when we communicated. We communicated what are we doing for our community, what are we doing for our associates, and what are we doing for our customers. And there were always three aspects to all communication that we had. One of the things early on, once we, not just us, everyone wound up putting folks on furlough, was the tremendous amount of heartache and angst that you had with the challenges getting through to unemployment, and many people suffering many weeks without any income whatsoever. So one night, very late, I was sitting on my patio. I happened to be talking to Frank Bordeaux, our insurance carrier, meaning the property insurance carrier, and it was just a conversation, again, about insurance, about the pandemic, about what the world's going to look like. And we were talking, and I said, I'm so heartbroken over this unemployment dilemma. And I asked Frank, because he's very, close to the legislators and politicians in Jackson. And I said, I wonder why they never reached out to corporations to help with the processing the unemployment. And Frank said, that's an interesting question. I said, we have background checks. We have call accounting systems. We have all of the things that I would think it would take in order to process calls. Well, lo and behold, within 48 hours, Frank had put a call in to Jackson. That following Thursday, Friday, we had 2 days of training, and we were able to bring back over 30 people and continue to do so to help process Mississippi State unemployment claims. So we're very proud of that, because we knew from talking to our customers, talking to our employees, talking to people in the community, that was one of the biggest struggles that everyone was having. And understanding that there's very little you can do in the community during a time like this when all of your associates are on furlough and you have no income coming in. So we really felt really good about that, and we were able to process and do that again very quickly, almost overnight.
That's fantastic.
And we continued to do it.
So you became a facilitator of the unemployment claims in the state of Mississippi due to the talents that you all, or the structures that you all have built in place as a casino. Is that correct?
And that is correct. And we feel really good about that. And again, we're going to continue to do so as long as we can. Yes,
as long as Mississippi needs you, you'll be operating, you'll be utilizing those services, huh?
Yes.
You know what? That's exactly, LuAnn, what we had another guest on the show not long ago who was talking about his company's ability to pivot. Now, I don't know about you, but that's a word that I've heard a lot during this pandemic, is we've got to pivot. Each business has to pivot. We're not going to give up on our goals. We're just going to pivot in how we approach those goals. This sounds like an extraordinary way that you, again, another company, has figured out how to pivot in times of the pandemic. Did it surprise you that this opportunity became available to you?
Oh, I was absolutely speechless again, and how quickly it happened, how they, think about private sector and public sector. It's usually not the perfect marriage, and people tend to stay away from it. It made us and several other people start to think about what can you do in situations like this, and why don't, more people get together to say, how can we partner? We're all in this for the same thing. We want to make sure our communities thrive, our associates continue to, be as satisfied as they can, and certainly your customers. So it's brought up a lot of ideas and things that we need to think about in the future in terms of partnering.
I think this is great. Let's go into break, and let's come back out of break. And I want to talk to you about, I'm going to tell you a story, LuAnn, about Disney, and I've repeated this story on this show quite a bit, and then see how this applies to you. I think there's something here that both I and the listeners can learn from. Folks, you're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. On the line with me, LuAnn Pappas, the Chief Executive Officer at the Scarlett Pearl Casino Resort over on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. We'll be right back.
I'm David Nelson, brewmaster and owner of Braided River Brewing. We want beer that goes along no matter where the adventure takes us and that doesn't make us choose between great beer and drinkability. We're drawn to the Delta and united by beer because to us, the best way to celebrate the Delta is to slow down and savor the moments and the beer together. Come visit our tap room in downtown Mobile and ask for us at your favorite bar or restaurant. Visit online at braidedriverbrewing.com.
I'm Matt Armbruster with Ransom Ministries. We help people in our community that most others have given up on. Please donate your unwanted electronics to Ransom Recycling. We teach life skills, job readiness, and job creation through our electronic recycling program. We take anything with a cord. Find us at ransomministries.com or you can call us at 251-751-0044.
Human Resource Departments spend countless hours on Obamacare rules and compliance. Employee benefits serve the purpose of recruiting, retaining, and rewarding employees. We can handle all of your benefit needs with cost-effective products, employee enrollments, and handle your HR issues. Benefit admin doesn't have. My name is Michael Cowart Jr. of the Cowart Group, and we specialize in helping businesses with their employee benefit packages. Visit CowartAssociates.com.
LuAnn Pappas is the Chief Executive Officer at the Scarlett Pearl Casino and Resort in D'Iberville, Mississippi. She is a previous guest on What's Working. We loved her forthright candor and honesty and insight into what is a mysterious and sexy business of operating and running a casino. LuAnn, just prior to the break, I told you that I was going to tell you a story, and it's a very simple one. I've repeated it a lot, but I think it has a lot of play in our time right now, and it is this. Disney, back in the day, the earliest parts of Disney, thought they were in the movie business, but they realized, no, they're in the family entertainment business. And once they changed the direction of what it is they do, once they realized truly what it is that they do, not movies, but family entertainment, it allowed them to explode and to go into many different areas, which ultimately included the theme parks that you and I know about. So you talked to me about the pivot that the Scarlett Pearl Casino went through immediately after the pandemic hit, of being able to provide a service that includes the background checks, et cetera, that got you into position to work with the state of Mississippi. So let me ask you a tough question. What business is the Scarlett Pearl Casino Resort really in? Is it a gambling hall or is it much more than that?
Oh, it's much more than that. And again, 35 years in this business has certainly taught me that. It's funny you use the word or the adjective sexy. I don't know that I call this business sexy, but what I will tell you is that I think most people underestimate the casino business and don't realize it truly is entertainment. The people that choose to do that are not the whales that everyone talks about. They're few and far between. It's typically people like us or our parents or our family members. They go, it's their respite from life. They're able to build very strong relationships and bonds with all of us. We know, their cat's name, their dog's name, their children, their grandchildren, birthdays, celebrations. It's interesting that you say that. I know it's an entertainment business, and that was one of the challenges. When we reopen, we have to still make this hassle-free. It can't be a process that people have to go through. They want to get away from the real world and what's happening on the outside. But we stayed in touch with our customers. We made all executives, and they willingly did that. I said made, but they certainly liked to do it, and we heard a lot of stories. We had to call 100 customers each a week. And as you know, it went on for several weeks, and we gained so much insight. But more importantly, we were able to say to them, hey, here's what we think we're going to have to do when we reopen. How do you feel about it? How do you feel about coming back? And the truth is, some people said, I will always come back, but I'm not ready to come back yet. Other people said, I can't wait for the doors to open. Can they open tomorrow? So we had a lot of insight from our customers regarding, what our business meant to them. And many of them use that word. It's how I get away from life. It's my escape from every day, the world, and working. And that's my extended family. So our guests use that term all the time. And it truly is that. One of the things we had to put out on our social media page was when we reopen, we were known for hugging and kissing everyone. That's just who we are.
That's right.
Even in a culture that doesn't allow you to do that, we do that. And everyone seemed to literally embrace that. And we made sure to tell them that we won't be doing that when we open, and we're not sure we'll be doing that for a long time.
Well, let's talk about that when we reopen. You told us the last time that your customer is a 50-year-old female. Is that, let me make sure I remember that correctly. 50-year-old female.
Yes, about 50 to 55 plus, predominantly female, yes.
Okay. And one of the things that, she likes three things about your casino. She likes it's well lit, it's safe, and it has a clean smell and feel. One of the things you told us about was the scent that you all had developed that people want to buy, that you're thinking of marketing or trying to market. It'll be interesting to get an update on that as well. So she likes your casino because she feels safe, she feels welcome, she feels like family, and you have done things around the casino, whether including the lighting, the windows, etc., to give her this sensation of safety, this true feeling of safety. Going forward, the definition of safety has necessarily changed. We're now fighting an invisible enemy. What are you doing to make this 50 to 55-year-old plus female feel safe going forward? You said you can't hug her and kiss her anymore. What more are you doing?
Well, we did while we were closed. We were fortunate enough to have, we realized that we saw these vendors put in front of us all types of different, panels that they called social distancing panels. A couple of things. They were, first of all, virtually impossible to get without an 8 to 10, 12-week lead time, which was definitely too long, and they were quite expensive. So in conversation one day at work, our director of facilities said, I think we can make these. And I said, well, that's interesting. So they went locally to Lowe's or Home Depot, bought LuAnn or plexiglass, made prototypes for both tables and slots. And then we spoke with the Mississippi Gaming Commission. And they came in, they looked at them, they approved them, and they said, sure, go ahead. So we continue to make them because, again, you have to wait sometimes because of the plexiglass or LuAnn and plexiglass seems to be out of stock. Like right now, we're waiting for a shipment to come in July. But we're going to continue to put those social distancing panels between every slot machine on the floor. And that's something that we're going to keep because we have found out since we've opened that customers like them. And we thought that they would feel a little confined, even though they're clear, but they like them. And they said it gives them a sense of greater safety. Now, with anything, there's no guarantee, but it certainly does give you a greater degree of comfort regarding keeping a distance from one another. So that's something that we will keep. Obviously, we are mandating that all customers have their temperature taken. Not everyone is. That's not something that will continue when we can stop. However, we have had no issues. We have it's a stand-up where you just put your face in it like a phone and you walk on. It tells you that, you're green or red. It's very simple. We had purchased a very expensive, over $8,000 thermal imaging machine. Unfortunately, it came in and our ceilings are too high and our entry too wide, so it didn't work. And unfortunately, we're having to send it back. But again, we're using these freestanding, looks like a cell phone. That's not something we'll keep. We offer all customers masks and gloves. Most of them don't take the mask, and I'll be honest about that. The good news is all the employees are required to wear a mask at all times, so it's okay. I'm not sure we feel like it was okay if it wasn't a mandate for the employees, because again, we have to be concerned with their safety as well.
Sure. That's a big part of it. LuAnn, did you ever think in your career that customers walking into a casino in a mask would be okay? This is like the beginning of every bank robber is a guy bursting through the door in a mask. And now we're telling people, please mask. We don't want to see your face. It's just crazy. It's just crazy the way things have flip-flopped. I'm curious.
It is, Sam. It is. It's just something that I don't think anyone imagined would happen. I really don't.
What about the dice on the craps table? When I go to a casino, that's the game of my choice. What are you doing about that?
Well, they're sanitized frequently. When we first opened, obviously you can only have 3 people at either end of a dice table, 3 people at a blackjack table. I do believe that's going to change in the very near future, maybe be able to go up to 4 or 8 on a craps table. We were fortunate to buy a chip sanitizing machine even before we opened that we never really used because we didn't need to. We now obviously use it all the time. And the same thing with the dice. The dice are frequently changed out in order to be sanitized. And cards were dealt face up until this week when we decided we didn't need to do that any longer. But certainly the cost of business has gone up significantly as a result of the changes that you have to make in order to do your best to make sure everyone's healthy and safe.
So you called, I remember you said just a moment ago, you had your team calling 100 people per week to check in with them, your best customers, your most frequent customers. Some of them are eager to get back. Some of them are saying it's going to take a little while. Are you offering any unique incentives that your customers may have whispered in your ear to get them back or to get them overnight or to have them eat more, anything like that?
No, and I want to be honest about that. Again, there's been a lot of confusion around it, not certainly by the casino or the Mississippi Gaming Commission, but customers have had some confusion. We're not allowed to due to social distancing, events, promotions, entertainment, serving alcohol in restaurants or other than the casino floor after 10 o'clock. We're not allowed. If you think about having to keep people 6 feet apart, and you historically are known for gift giveaways and private VIP parties, none of that can happen today. Unless you're able to do some type of virtual promotion or giveaway. And that certainly depends on the technology that you have. So that part of it, I had significant concern about. But it's interesting. One more time again, where people continue to amaze me. They understand, and they're very receptive to that. In terms of food offering, we used to offer a significant amount of, offers for 2 or buy one, get one for our buffet. And we'd put 1,100 people through there on any given Friday or Saturday night because it was all you could eat seafood. We've opted to not open that, and we don't know when we're going to open that because we couldn't feel comfortable figuring out how to keep that many people in lines that stayed forever until 10 o'clock at night and keep them 6 feet apart. When we actually measured out the space we had to work with, you could only put 30 people in a line whereby they were, a couple or a person were 6 feet apart. And we just said, it's too hard to do. Plus the tables having to be 6 feet apart. So we just knew we couldn't execute it and said, there's going to be a risk. We probably will lose business, but it's a risk we just weren't willing to take. We needed to understand, can we flawlessly execute this with the focus on the distancing?
Yeah. Interesting. That buffet is a big attractor to so many people to the casino, the offerings of the casino. It must have been, a tough pill to swallow to recognize that you couldn't reopen that buffet. I'm sure you're getting questions from people of how much longer is this going to be closed down? When can I come back and see this, the buffet back? Do you have any predictions on what that'll be?
I don't. I originally said we would do it before the 4th of July weekend. However, I realized that too is right around the corner.
Yeah.
So again, probably the middle of July, but it will look and feel different. I don't want people, serving themselves. We'll have to serve them. Again, there are just so many concerns when you're doing, an all-you-can-eat seafoods on Fridays and Saturdays and, volumes of people. You want to make sure that that you never sacrifice the number one thing that we're trying to do here, and that's keep people as safe as possible. So there will be changes when we open. We're looking obviously into systems. You mentioned Disney, how they have those, there's little like buzzers to say, your table's ready so that you can avoid the lines,
right.
Although we've had limited success in using that in our cafe. So I certainly still have concerns about the buffet. But we are working through it, and we're hoping to have some technology help us to do that.
Let's talk about what's going to happen. Let's talk about the future when we come back from break. I want to ask you that question. What are you going to keep that I referred to earlier? What are you going to keep, and what are you going to leave behind? You've mentioned a couple of the things that you're going to keep. I'm wondering if there's some attitudes and some business practices, other than, let's say, shields between the slot machines, some things that you've learned about people, about business, about the entertainment business that you think are now a part of who you are and part of who that casino is. And we'll talk about that when we get back from break. LuAnn Pappas is the Chief Executive Officer at the Scarlett Pearl Casino and Resort in D'Iberville, Mississippi. You're listening to What's Working, brought to you by Regions. We'll be right back.
Life insurance is one of those subjects that make people want to change the subject rather than admit they probably don't have enough. I'm State Farm agent Allison Horner, and that's why I focus on how the benefits of life insurance actually live on by asking people to think in terms of life without having to sell the house insurance, or life without having to give up college insurance. Find out how the benefits of life insurance can live on for your family. Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, and get to a better state with State Farm.
That's the sound of rush hour. hello, recess.
Mom!
Work from home is a lot of work.
Mommy!
Even though we're a little further apart right now, we're still in this together. Regions is donating this ad to local food banks to shine a light on them as they feed our neighbors in need. Learn how you can help or get help at regions.com/foodbank. Regions Bank, member FDIC.
This is Cam Marston, host of What's Working. Jim Mitchell and his team at Signorama have provided all types of signage for nearly every event I've been a part of for years. I know his team's creativity, their multitude of products, and how easy they are to work with. His No Mistake Signorama is South Alabama's marketplace leader. Find Signorama on Facebook. Call 634-0100 or visit next to Mullinex Ford on Airport Boulevard.
I'm David Nelson, brewmaster and owner of Braided River Brewing. We want beer that goes along no matter where the adventure takes us and that doesn't make us choose between great beer and drinkability. We're drawn to the Delta and united by beer because to us, the best way to celebrate the Delta is to slow down and savor the moments and the beer together. Come visit our tap room in downtown Mobile and ask for us at your favorite bar or restaurant. Visit online at braidedriverbrewing.com.
We are back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. On the line with me is LuAnn Pappas, the Chief Executive Officer of the Scarlett Pearl Casino and Resort. LuAnn, prior to the break, and one of the new things we're bringing to the show is asking each guest, what are you going to take with you from your lessons of COVID, and what are you eager to leave behind? You talked a little bit about some of the physical structures that you've added, and I mentioned again the barriers, the plexiglass between the slot machines. What about more attitudinal things or business practices things, less tangible items that you're going to take with you, as well as some that you can't wait to leave behind?
Well, I think one of the big takeaways for us is, we communicate, sometimes probably over communicate to all interested, whether that's your guests, whether that's your associates, or whether that's the community. One of the things that we learned was how well the Zoom meetings were received. And if you think about people that work in an industry 24/7 and wanting to ensure that you communicate with everyone, this is something we're going to take into the future. As a matter of fact, I sent out a questionnaire and said, we really still need to have our regular meetings, meeting with the 800 associates. How do you feel if we continue with the Zoom calls, given that we can't all be in the ballroom around the clock like we were before? And what I found interesting is overwhelmingly they wanted the calls to start back again because they were every week and sometimes 2 times a week. So we talked about it yesterday, and we're going to send out, a little monkey survey first to say, what are the things that you think we've executed well? What are the things that we haven't? And what are the questions and concerns? And we have some, and they're not all positive, that I have no issue with mentioning because I struggle with it just like every other business owner does. But Zoom meetings is good. We're going to continue to do that. We can actually do more of them because, again, it's over the phone. And you can do it 7 days a week, and you can do it at 2, 3 in the morning without having to say, gee, we all have to get up. We have to put a suit on. We have to go in and do it. You can, set your alarm, wake up, Zoom into the meeting, talk to everyone, and go back to bed. So it's interesting learning. In terms of people, I'm not sure I'm there yet, but I have some things that I struggle with. And, in terms of folks' reactions, particularly how difficult it is to get people to come back to work, and not just for us, for a lot of people. And again, a lot of that has to do with the federal and the state packages were much more lucrative, particularly if you were in tipped positions, to stay home and to not come into work. And we have found some issues with, people that worked 40 hours, say, I'm only going to work 32 or 30 and only want to work 16 over the belief. And in some cases that they can continue to collect that money. Now, we all know that money's going to run out, and we all know that hopefully everyone's doing the right thing because eventually the system will catch up. But it's the attitude that I'm a little, I guess, disappointed in. And they're always good in everything. But this will end. The world will go back to normal. It doesn't feel like that it's very chaotic right now with everything going on. Things will go back to normal. People talk about a new normal. I'm going to define it and tell you it'll be the same thing that we experienced before. I don't know if it's going to be new. It's just going to take longer to get there. In reference to the pandemic, there's certainly other systemic things that won't go back to normal and shouldn't go back to normal. But it's interesting when you could be a great study of people and behaviors regarding how people have reacted to this and their thoughts about it. But, it's unrealistic to think that the economy didn't need to be restarted. We couldn't go on forever in the direction we were headed in, business or otherwise. It's just not real. Somebody's got to pay the bills.
Yeah, yeah. And your concern is you're not the first person to mention that very same concern. In fact, some of the requests that I'm getting for my seminar work is how employers can reach back out to their employees and get them to come back to work. And perhaps even get them to come back to the office, because there's an argument that's been made of the Zoom meetings and the at-home work has been very successful, but there is something lost about people not being together as they work on a regular basis, most of which is around creativity and problem solving, that there are more creative ideas and more problems solved when people are actually physically together working. And there are employers that are saying, I need your help, Cam, to figure out this language to get people back to work, or what a new workplace model should look like, considering how much people have gravitated to the at-home work. So
absolutely. And we're in the people business. It's a contradiction to the very business we're in.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm curious now of what you can't wait to leave behind. You've mentioned some of these in the conversation, but what are some things that you can't wait to never see again?
Well, the number one issue for everyone, the number one issue. Now, this is not taking a position on whether it's right or wrong, because I support that people need to wear face masks, particularly when you see the numbers continue to increase in Harrison and Jackson County, where we had we're fortunate that wasn't the case before. I will tell you unequivocally, the masks. While we all know we need them, while we all want to keep everyone safe, if you're a dealer, if you're a housekeeper, and you're working 7 hours of an 8-hour day and have to wear that mask constantly, there have been several issues as a result of that. It is very difficult to do. And my heart goes out because, certainly I can walk and run behind the house or find an exit door. But it's very, very uncomfortable to do it, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Very difficult. So that's one that I think people will be very, very happy to put behind. It's just not one I'm sure there's any easy solution to, at least in the short term. As for the rest of it, we actually have thought about it, and I can't wait to get the next Zoom meeting with 800 people. There's very few other things that we would change. If you think about the fact that you're handing out hand sanitizer and you have more of those stations available, and you're wiping down every slot machine at the end of every session, there's reason to believe and support that will continue. That won't go away. But again, keep going back to the number one. My heart breaks is the mask.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard stories about people hyperventilating behind the mask and passing out. That the mask is actually causing head injuries from people falling and hyperventilating because they can't get a full breath.
I'm one of those people. Unfortunately, I have COPD and congestive heart failure. I looked for an exit door and 2 times found myself having a panic attack because I couldn't get to that door quick enough to pull that off to be able to breathe.
Yeah. Well, I feel for you. That's not good. And I can certainly relate, or I can certainly understand. I'm not in a position where I have to wear the mask to work, but I can certainly understand that challenge, particularly in your people. And they just get frustrated. And I've seen some pictures online of some of the masks causing black eyes and rashes and raw places around the ears and around the cheekbones. It's just...
Oh, it's so sad. We've had to get creative. If you wear glasses, and I do, I need them to read. Your glasses fog up, so you wind up going to an auto store and getting the windshield stuff to make sure you do your glasses so they don't fog up. I mean, you get really creative.
Yeah, yeah. LuAnn, tell us as we come to a close here, give us some thoughts on, give us a pitch. There are people out there that are eager to get on the road, to go do something. Give them a pitch for the Scarlett Pearl Casino.
Well, my pitch would be that we've done everything we can do, continue to do it, are diligent about it in terms of doing our best to protect health and safety of our customers as well as our employees. I can tell you that most of the people work on tips. I've said this, whether you're, a local restaurant, whether you're in the casino business. And I know personally, if I were one to go out, I would overly compensate because of what's happened to so many people. And we live in a market where people live on hospitality. but I can assure you that we will welcome people back with virtual open arms. And more importantly, we'd listen to anything anyone had in terms of a recommendation for anything that we could do better. But again, I'm very appreciative of the community, the Mississippi Gaming Commission, our customers, and most importantly, our associates. They've worked through this, and we'll get to the other side. And the other side, we will, I do believe, be better people as a result of it.
LuAnn Pappas is the Chief Executive Officer at the Scarlett Pearl Casino and Resort in D'Iberville, Mississippi. She's been a previous guest on What's Working. We love her to death. She is a great interview, an intelligent woman, great answers, and I just feel, LuAnn, you're thoughtful, you're compassionate, you're exactly the type of person I'm glad to know. Thank you very much for coming back on the show.
Thank you, and I've enjoyed talking to you. Please have a wonderful weekend.
All right, we'll be back after this, folks, with final comments.
Do you sometimes wonder about different money topics, but struggle to find the answers? The Every Dollar Counts podcast with Gulf Coast experts Josh Knoll and Jay Stubbs is made for those folks serious about their financial plan and looking for answers. Josh and Jay dedicate their time to explaining the various services and products available, as well as discussing lifestyle and money interests of the modern-day family. Tune in to Every Dollar Counts on Apple Podcasts and everywhere else you get your favorite podcasts.
What's Working with Cam Marston is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer. Stella Artois is a perfect beer for celebration. Nothing caps off a big sale, hitting your incentive goals, or a profitable quarter like a round of Stellas. Brewed first in 1708 as a special Christmas brew, today Stella is a gift for everyone to enjoy year-round. Stella Artois. Find it wherever fine beer is sold.
The team at What's Working with Cam Marston are big fans of LuAnn Pappas. The story goes like this. When we sit around and brainstorm about businesses that we feel would be great guests on the show, we come up with names and ideas and industries and things like that. And then Kristen Ogden, whose name appears at the end of every show, goes and tries to find the people that best represent that industry, that will talk to us. She spends a moment on the phone getting an impression of whether they can hold a conversation for a radio interview for 30 minutes is usually about what it is. When we first identified casinos as a topic for the show, Kristen got busy and she began calling the casinos on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And most of them were very suspicious of her motives. Who are you? Why are you calling? What's your deal? What do you want to know? Why us? It was almost as if they were afraid they'd been caught at something, like they thought we were a sting operation. She said they were like characters out of a movie, the way they reacted to her inquiry about being on the show. And then Kristen finds LuAnn Pappas, who is open and friendly and helpful. And yes, I'd love to talk to you. And sure, I'd be happy to tell you how a casino works. And absolutely, I'll tell you who my customer is and tell you what our challenges are and what our opportunities are. And when we reached back out for this current show, LuAnn, would you be willing to talk to us about the changes you've had to make during the corona epidemic? Absolutely. I'd be happy to. It would be a wonderful conversation. And we get the feeling of warmth and friendliness and compassion. And it has turned into the What's Working team desire to do anything we can to help her out, whether it's give her a little bit of attention through this show or perhaps even less influential, going to her casino and sitting down and having a meal there, knowing that it will help the food server, the whole wait staff, leave a big tip if we can, help the casino. And I think, once again, there's this message that comes through: genuine compassion, helpful, open, vulnerable, happy. And these are the people that we tend to gravitate to, not as a show, but we all tend to gravitate to these types of people. Incidentally, I looked up LuAnn Pappas on LinkedIn. I always want to connect with these people so that we can promote the show by linking to their LinkedIn profile, and found her photo there. And she just looks exactly like we hoped she would. Friendly, helpful, open, happy, fun. There's a message for you there, Cam. Keep listening. There's a message. These people tend to keep showing up and they tend to keep doing well. So, LuAnn, if you're listening, Thank you once again for what's been a wonderful conversation, and can't wait to continue this friendship with you and see your success continue. We'll do whatever we can to help you out. Folks, I want to remind you about a new thing that we're doing on the show. We talked a little bit about it with LuAnn, but want you to get involved. We haven't exactly figured out how to name it, but the one that I think as I've been thinking about it, how about take it or leave it? Take it or leave it. And what does it mean? What of the new business practices that you've picked up during the COVID economy that you're going to take, that you're going to keep with you? What of the new business practices that you've picked up during the COVID economy can't you wait to leave behind? Can't you wait to throw away? LuAnn talked about the masks and how difficult those are for the people that do the work in the casino. She can't wait to throw those things away, get rid of the masks, assuming we ever can. But the partitions between the slot machines, she's going to take. I want to know what you're going to take, what you're going to leave behind. I want you to send me an email or text me. Here's the email, Cam, C-A-M, @whatsworkingcam.com. What are you going to take? What are you going to leave behind? We'll read them back on the show, or perhaps call you and have you on the air to talk about what you're going to take and what you're going to leave behind. You can text your answer to me as well, 251-260-8100. That's also a voicemail line, by the way. Text or voicemail me at 251-260-8100. Email me, cam@whatsworkingcam.com, and let me know what you're going to take. Let me know what you're going to leave behind. Take it or leave it. Interestingly, and not exactly related to LuAnn, this is kind of a non sequitur here, a tangent, I saw some information and spoke about it on the Tuesday-Thursday show not long ago. This is interesting stuff. This is what I enjoy. There are about 20 million voters who will vote in their first presidential election ever in November. They're what's called members of Generation Z. I also call them the iGen, lowercase I, like iPod, iPad, iPhone, iGen. They'll vote for the very first time in November. And the question is not, who are they going to vote for? They are, I think the numbers are 5-4 against the current president. They're not a big fan. Now, in our part of the world here in the Deep South, maybe you'll find some that are. In fact, I know you will. But outside the Deep South, they're generally not a big fan of the current president. So the question is not who they will vote for in mass as a generation. The question is, will they vote? This is a generation historically similar to the millennials, that if they don't see a candidate that they love, they don't vote. So it's not for them a hold your nose and vote if you don't like either of them. It's don't engage. I don't like either candidate, so I don't engage. And we're seeing that recognition in many of the campaigns, particularly on the Democrat side, of your vote matters, your vote counts, get out the vote, get up and get out and engage in the process. So I will be watching that, and it will be interesting to see if this attitude of maybe apathy isn't the right word, but not engaging if they don't like it will apply to business at some point. Or are they going to be loud about the businesses they don't like? I don't know. We'll wrap it up. Kristen Ogden, as I've mentioned before, helps me organize these interviews. She does a remarkable job for us, for the team. John Thompson is the show's producer. John is with Ion Digital. If you want to leave us a message, get involved, 251-260-8100, and find us on social media. We're there. We're all over there. Have a good week, everyone. We'll have another show next week.